Hello and welcome to What's in Your Wardrobe. Today I'm here with Tamara at Remuse. Tell me about how you started.
That's a bit of a long story, but to keep it short, I moved to Melbourne in 2015. At the time, I had an upcycled fashion brand that I started in New York and had some editorial styling experience. But when I moved here, I wanted to create my own fashion brand that had aesthetic cohesion, that was not upcycled, made from scratch, but using mindful materials, and a lot of the different influences that I had come across in my, design journey and styling journey, I kind of fused together into my label, currently Remuse. So after kind of a few trials here and there, I started making one-of-a-kind pieces, selling them at markets and little stores, and then from there it became what it is today.
Overlocking, stitching things together and panels, they must take you, how many hours would something like that take?
It all depends. The creation of the smaller bits of fabric into larger bits always takes a bit longer. I do give myself a time window of 2 to 4 hours just to at least get a good meter or so done. But more than that, I would say a piece averages about 4 hours and up.
You actually make it into like a meterage, not into the pattern?
I make it into the meterage and then I cut it into the pattern.
Yeah, right.
But with certain pieces that are very draped and very kind of molded to the silhouette of the body, I usually take the smaller bits and kind of panel them onto a dress form.
Yeah,
that way. So I kind of work both of those
two different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, and where do you get your inspiration from?
I'm really inspired by biomimicry, the natural environment, Afrofuturism, and those are my main influences.
And tell me, you've just been in Fashion Week. What did you have in Fashion Week?
I had a number of different pieces from sort of similar to that kind of concept of taking smaller bits of my remnant materials and patchworking them together. So with these pieces, the creation of the fabric took the longest, and then from there I modified kind of patterns that I had already developed through my product as well, and then cut it into these new pieces.
I love all this lace work that you have.
Oh, thank you.
And you've got it on here as well.
Yes, no, it's a nice kind of way of elevating the upcycled materials into something that's a little bit more intricate and considered.
And do you do the bleaching? You've
Yes.
got bleaching on here, so you do that as well?
Yes, I do all the dyeing as well.
Oh my gosh, every piece
sewing.
must take days.
Yes and no. Depends on kind of how quickly I'm working, but once I'm in my flow state, then the pieces take a bit less time. Talking about fabric dyes, I use a lot of different fabric dyes, but mostly natural dyes or low impact dyes aside from bleach. So this one is a hand dyed organic indigo piece.
I love that.
Yeah, so I am very much inspired by biomimicry in the natural environment. So I have curved design lines in most of my pieces, and that is also kind of juxtaposed with the sort of randomness of the dye pattern as well. So a lot of kind of the scrunch dyeing techniques I really love, because it really kind of replicates that flow of nature. This is a natural indigo dye, so I create an indigo dye vat, which requires a bit more of a process than sort of your conventional dye, where you kind of have the dye and just add water, or just have maybe the plant-based material and just boil it in water. With indigo, you have to kind of oxygenate the dye and then remove the oxygen, which allows it to really bond to the fabric. If you take organic indigo powder and put it in water, it's just not going to bond to a material. You have to almost kind of expand the actual dye and then extract what you don't need from it, and then kind of that dye material then bonds to the fabric, in so many words.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about dyeing. Where do you get the indigo dye from?
There's a lot of kind of local kind of craft shops that sell powdered indigo, but a lot of I guess, traditional like indigo dyers, if you want to have a very elongated process, you can, harvest the plant yourself.
Oh my gosh.
But you really need the correct conditions for that. Cultivate the leaves, dehydrate the leaves, turn them into a powder. But we're talking a process that takes several months, if not a year. And then after that stage, if you have kind of altered anything in your harvesting process, you might get to the end of that stage and the dye actually isn't working. But so I pretty much get the powdered indigo and create that myself. But there's also something called pre-reduced indigo, in which it's been pre-reduced and already chemically altered so that you can just add water. But I try to avoid that because I really love the creation of like the indigo dye mat going through that process.
What other colors have you got here?
Yes, so I have a friend, Fipe, who owns a company called Living Coco, and so she gave me all of her, not all of her, but some of her remnant chocolate that she couldn't sell, and so this is a chocolate dye.
Right.
So she has this amazing.
It's actual chocolate.
Actual chocolate.
Right.
It's been boiled in water and it's color fast. So I've washed this with detergent and dried it, and the color bonds to the material.
I didn't realize that. So can you use any chocolate, or it has to be special?
I would say as raw as possible, like probably not your Cadbury chocolate or like anything with the...
That might actually just degrade the whole fabric.
Yeah, anything with too many other chemicals and additives.
Exactly.
As natural as possible is the best.
And what about these pink colors, pink tinges?
Oh yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm loving this.
Oh yes, this was all my quilted kind of remnant materials. So behind this curtain, I have all of my fabric scraps color coded that I create new product in.
You have to be organized actually in a small space, don't you?
You do, yeah. I really try to maximize the space because pretty much in this space I do all my dyeing, design, pattern making, draping, sewing, construction, selling, e-commerce shots, flat lays.
I know.
So just trying to use each and every corner as best as possible.
Yeah, and when you're only one person, that's just incredible. I love that.
Yeah.
It actually reminds me of something from the 80s.
Yes, there's a lot of like 80s influences.
Oh yeah, totally.
Influences in my work. I really try to
love it.
Use all the remnant materials, and the pink dyes are actually a low impact fiber reactive dye. Low impact fiber reactive dyes are a man-made dye, but they have a really great mix in which they're used for a lot of like baby clothes or for clothing for anyone with chemical sensitivities.
Right.
They don't have any heavy metals in them, because sometimes with natural dyes you have to use heavy metals for it to be color fast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Because you can get a really, really bright and bold color with natural dyes, but unless you chemically kind of alter it or use something called a mordant, which allows that plant-based material to bond to the fabric, it just will wash out.
Can you use salt?
You can use salt, but it doesn't kind of hold as much. Well, what's the word? The metal mordants allow it to bond to the fabric a lot stronger.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
because that's how I've been just dyeing and then sticking a whole heap of salt in with the dye to make sure it's fast.
Yes.
So there's no fastening agents in this?
I use soda ash. Soda ash is what you use with low impact fiber reactive dyes. Also, this purple tone is actually a plant-based dye, so you can get really bright and bold colors. This is with Logwood, which means bloodwood, in its kind of Latin variation of the word, and pretty much without aluminium sulfate, which is a metal salt. This would be more of like a reddish brown. With the aluminium sulfate, you get purple. With aluminium acetate, you get a more kind of greeny tone. So it really depends. You use mordants basically to have the color really bond to the fabric, but then you use modifiers to shift that same plant-based dye into another color.
Right, because it's kind of like blueberries.
Yeah, kind of like blueberries. But yes, blueberries would be very expensive to dye with, and
Yes.
also not worth it.
No, probably not.
No, better to eat them.
I love this.
Oh yes. So that is
That's incredible.
oh, thank you. Yeah, so
I just see a lot of work, basically.
it was a lot of work, and this has been a popular style, which has been a lot of work for me, but nonetheless, that's okay. But yeah, so these are all my indigo sort of scraps, specifically this is my organic calico that I hand dyed with indigo, and I basically kept it in a bin, and now I am overlocking all the pieces, so that's what I was doing earlier today. So taking all my scraps and then creating meterage out of it, and then cutting my shirt style out of that.
And no, there would not be one piece that's the same.
No, exactly. So it's all kind of like one of a kind, but you get the general sense of the garment. So it's really tailored to the person.
Yeah.
But you know, you do have an idea of what the general vibe of the piece is.
Do you have an eyelet machine?
I have a small one. So these larger ones, more like the curtain eyelets, I visit a really amazing husband and wife team who do all my buttonholes.
Right.
Yes, I used to rent a buttonhole machine from another friend of mine who used to have a label in a factory. She has since closed down, so
okay.
Buttonhole machines are actually really hard to find these days.
Buttonhole machines?
Yes, like in the industrial ones.
Yes.
And I also find, especially just with how much sewing I have to do, that's the one thing I can outsource, especially if I have to make, say, 20 shirts in a few days.
Yep.
It would be really terrible if I somehow, like, after all that sewing, missed a buttonhole, have to do it all again, you know, so.
Is that, what about just using a domestic machine for the buttonholes? Is that too slow?
It's too slow, and it doesn't get the accuracy I need.
Yeah.
A lot of my fabrics are very thick, and they're too thick for an industrial machine to sew neatly. I've tried, and it just ends up not working. I really need something like with a lot of power that really kind of can go through the very thick and gritty fabric. Yeah. Otherwise, it just isn't quite right.
And there's less and less buttonhole machines now, is there?
They're hard to find. I feel like that's a larger conversation about the industry kind of going offshore
shrinking,
and shrinking, and a lot of really highly skilled machinists are leaving the industry, and so I think it's kind of a larger indication of a larger problem of keeping these skills alive, and also finding machinists who also know how to fix the machines if they break down.
That's the thing.
So there's a lot of like industrial machines that are kind of abandoned, and there aren't enough people to, you know, fix and maintain them, which is also an issue. And then I think also, like, I found actually a buttonhole machine, but with how small my space is, it would be hard to find kind of space for it.
Where would you put it? Does it stitch buttons on as well?
There is a separate machine that can do that. So most buttonhole machines just do the buttonholes, and then you can get a separate kind of button sewing machine. I've done eyelets by hammer, but I find just for my ears and my sanity just to outsource that. But I do all my small eyelets myself. So all the eyelets in that coat and all those little ones.
Gosh.
So there's about 700 in those that I've hand pressed myself. So so I do the smaller ones myself, only because that would be quite expensive to outsource. I enjoy trying to do all the work myself, but at the end of doing 700 eyelets, my hands are usually swollen.
That would take forever. And did you dye this end one here, the red one?
No. So, well, part of it I did actually. So I've dyed this part here. Oh yes, that was a little snafu. Sorry.
I actually didn't know to do that.
So this is a recycled hemp fabric that I've smocked together and then dyed red. And then I had this remnant red fabric that I found in a bin at an old family member's house when I went overseas. And instead of putting it into landfill, I created this dress. So,
yeah, fantastic.
I really kind of wanted to play with the contrast of a sort of manufactured red with a hand-dyed red.
Yep. I love how you smocked all of that design.
Yes.
I love that.
I love, smocking as well because it's so meditative and you can really
Yeah.
kind of relax into it. We just shot it 2 days ago, so that will be on the website soon.
Oh my God.
This is just the one size, but this, my size range is made to order.
Yeah,
So,
right.
My made to order size range of pieces that I've created for clients have ranged from a size 4 to a size 26. So
That's fantastic.
I'm happy to do within those ranges and beyond.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
It's inclusive of everybody then.
Yes, absolutely. This was also part of the Melbourne Fashion Week Underground Runway. So all the different kind of sort of light colored beige tones from my remnant materials, I overlocked in red and then quilted together, then made the corset out of, and that went with the
Oh my gosh. And so did that go underneath these?
That went underneath these.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. And that one's indigo and onion skin. So I dyed this with yellow onions. So I used mostly the skins and a little bit of the actual onion. And then I re-dyed it with indigo. And the contrast of the tannins from the onion, the yellow onion, kind of reacted with the indigo, created this really interesting pattern. Because this is more of like a crinkled linen material. Yeah.
Like a cheesecloth.
Yeah, like a cheesecloth.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yes. I started using bleach because people were asking me for it and I love the look. So, it seems like a bit of a jump from, natural dyes to go to bleach. But nonetheless, here we are.
And so you're using the back and the front of the fabric, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And I love that for a bit of contrast. So that's also something I do in my design work, kind of using the top side and the wrong side to create a bit of contrast in the piece.
Tell me about how this space here and where we are, and if people can come in, or do you have customers that find you on the internet and then get you to make one-off pieces for them?
Yes. So I work a few different ways. I have my website, which is a made-to-order website, but I also have limited edition stock as well that I make, which are available ready to ship. I'm also stocked in a few different stockists, but if a client wants to come and try things on, or come, and get a item that I haven't already made up already or that has sold out, I'm happy for them to do that. My studio here on Easy Street is available by appointment, so clients can come in, get custom pieces made and designed, or pick from the rack, or get something that's made to order from my website.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
It's been awesome, and I love your little spot.
Thank you.
And I would love to come down and I'll share the space with you. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.